What's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and welcome to another awesome episode of my weekly Q&A show, Tout People's Questions, episode 300, and I believe 36, so we're really getting up there. We got a much shorter episode of questions this time around, which is okay with me because the shorter they are, the faster these videos can go. And starting off real simple with the first question coming from Tanuki Player. I hope I said that right, which I think you said I did get it right last time, so that's good. And you want to know, what are some of my favorite films of all time? Oh, that's a good one. Let's see, top 5 movies off the top of my head. Terminator 2, Dark Knight, Inception, Saving Private Ryan, and as crazy as this may sound, I'm actually really quite fond of Star Wars Episode 3. I'm sorry, that's always been, I don't know, that definitely would rank in probably the top 5 most watched movies I've ever seen, and it's probably going to remain my favorite Star Wars episode of all time till, unless something else beats it, which I think is highly unlikely in the future. The next question comes from JDS4696. You want to know, am I excited for Resident Evil Vendetta? And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's pretty much the next CGI movie that they're coming out with. They follow Damnation and, I believe, Degeneration. I'm curious. They're bringing in Chris this time, so again, Leon is taking the front. We don't really know too much about it, so we're not sure when this game is going to take place. I'm guessing it takes place after the events of 6, but from what they're doing with 7, since it's clearly looking like Resident Evil 7 is not going to be a game I'm going to be playing, I'm just not sure what this story is going to be about. As soon as we get more information, or as soon as it comes out, I will be sure to do a movie review on that. The next question is kind of a versus question, so I just kind of want to go in depth for this one. But I believe your name goes by the name of Victus43Rap, and you want me to do a versus matchup between Sora versus Link, and you asked please. The trick of doing a Sora versus Link matchup is that we don't, for one, you need to be specific. Which Link and which Sora. There are multiple different versions of Sora. Sora is not consistent throughout the games. Sora from, say, Kingdom Hearts 1 is vastly different than how he is in 2, and he's vastly different than how he is in 3D, and he's vastly different than how he's going to be probably going into Kingdom Hearts 3. And with Link, since we're not even sure if all these Zelda stories are connecting because there's like the element of time travel and that makes it confusing, we don't know what Link is. And it's not really fair to take all the Links and just put them together and make one Ultimate Link, and take all the Soras and make one Ultimate Sora. And the trick is that I have no means of actually playing any of the Zelda games. I don't have a Nintendo system. And I haven't played a Zelda game in at least 15 years. I think the last one I even tried playing was maybe Majora's Mask, and that was on the N64. So it'd be relatively hard. If I was to do a Sora versus Link matchup, I'd really have to work with someone else who actually could get the footage and the research for someone like Link. But for Sora, again, like I said earlier, you'd have to be specific. Which Sora are we working with? I mean, it's just like Sephiroth. I'm very, very specific in saying I'm using Sephiroth from the Final Fantasy VII games. I'm not using Sephiroth how he is in Kingdom Hearts, because that's literally a completely different animal altogether. So I think that would be kind of the major challenge with trying to do a Sora versus Link matchup. The next question comes from Hydriga Blood 881, and you want to know, what do I think the 11th Doctor would think of Big Boss, Solid Snake, or Luke Skywalker? Big Boss, I think you might find him interesting, but I think you'd find him a bit of a tortured character. He might be a little bit more interested in Solid Snake because he's kind of a clone. But he's a clone who's kind of established his own legendary status, which that's impressive, because you would think that someone who's a copy of someone else simply wants to live in the shadow of their, their genetic maker. But that's not the case for Solid Snake. In terms of Luke Skywalker, I think he would find the element of the Force very interesting. However, I think he would probably try to pull a Episode 1 and try to give a logical explanation, with the use of midi-chlorians or something like that. So, I don't know, I think the 11th Doctor would have some fun with those 3 guys. The next question comes from Wong... Okay, Wong-Allied Wong. I hope I said that right, because this is definitely a new one. And you want to know, do I like to eat kebab meat, and why? I don't know what what that is, so I guess not. The next question comes from Set to the Scarpino, and you want to know which is the worst Mortal Kombat game. Oh, that's an easy one. I think the worst Mortal Kombat game, for me at least, is probably Sub-Zero. I know that they tried to do some sort of Jax, like military shoot 'em up game, which I never played, but I did have it. I did play Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero on the Nintendo 64, and you know, for a game following my second favorite Mortal Kombat character, it was just terrible. It kind of like made me feel good that they didn't try that with Scorpion. The next question comes from Macho Wesker 17, and he asked the complete opposite question in terms of which is the best Mortal Kombat game. If I can be honest, I would like to say Mortal Kombat 2 because I think it was a massive improvement over Mortal Kombat 1, which is still a classic. But if I had to pick my personal favorite, it would have to be the reboot, or as we call it, Mortal Kombat 9. I thought that it, without question, had the best story. It did an amazing job kind of using time travel in a clever way of going really all the way back to the beginning of the first game and redoing events that go through Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 and 3. And I think that with the changes, I think it set the foundation for what would follow in terms of Mortal Kombat 10. So the fact that it was able to really retell the Mortal Kombat story as we knew it, but make slight alterations, and it just was a fantastic story. I think, in my opinion, that is like a true Mortal Kombat movie. I think that the additions they add, in terms of the X-rays, the super moves, I thought that was a great addition. I absolutely love the use of tag team, which we've never had a tag team before in Mortal Kombat, which I don't know why they took that out of Mortal Kombat 10. I was really disappointed about that. And it had, without question, some of the bloodiest fatalities I've ever seen. My favorite one being Noob Smoke is, I would really like to go into one of those meetings at NetherRealm Studios where they just sit around and they go through each character one by one and they try to think of, you know, what's a real creative way we can mutilate a human body in a really cool fashion. I mean, I don't even want to talk. I just want to be in the room and listen to them bounce ideas. That would be an amazing experience. So Mortal Kombat 9 is my favorite Mortal Kombat game. And I believe that is all the questions that we have for this episode. So this was fun. So I'd like to thank all of you guys for sending in your questions. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in the next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday. Make sure of that before I start recording this video. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check out my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.